piggybacks on Ben's presentation about facilities. And I'm going to actually be able to show the outside of some buildings, so hopefully it can pull a couple things together for some folks. We are currently now looking for a means to make our facilities a reality in our district. There are three real major building type things that have to be built. Phase 3 that we call it the high school, which includes a theater, a library, aquatic center, CTE building, and there are some ancillary projects that I'll address in a few moments. We also have Hanson Elementary School, where we're analyzing student growth data, which is exponential monthly. And I will get into that a little bit later. And then also a promise of 2 preschools at 2 of our elementary schools, one at Altamont and one at Hanson Elementary. So if you look at this rendering, it shows you the buildings yet to be built at Mountain House High School. And there's a legend here. So if you start over here, this is the Learning Commons, AKA library. This is the theater or performing center. This is the Aquatic Center. This is the Career Technical Ed building. The ancillary projects are a restroom and snack bar at the football stadium, a field house for spring sports out here in the fields, baseball, softball, and tennis courts, and I believe that's all of them. So those are yet to be completed. In the previous months, I've given 2 presentations on the means of why we're where we're at, but suffice to say, no state money, no developer money, and that's where we stand with those for building phase 3. So if you take a look at the theater or performing arts center, this is a general rendering of the theater, a front view and a side view. This is where you would enter campus from the north parking lot and moving towards the quad, the multi-purpose room over here to the left going south. Ben did an excellent job explaining that and tied to their career technical ed programs. But again, it's really important to know that this is where great art happens, community events could happen, Shakespeare in the Park without the park, things like that.
And wind.
And speakers falling and you know. But also the classroom space, and it's important to note we're planning for 1,100 high schoolers next year with a full senior class, and the growth is just going to keep coming. So we need the programs that were referenced in Mr. Faubert's presentation. Those would be places where we would house them. This would be the Learning Commons, AKA library, what it would look like from the front and from the side. Again, that would go to the south portion of what is the administrative building now, and where it would break down. But it's also important to note that with these 3 classrooms, we can have programs, but we also have plans in these 2 conference rooms. There's been a lot of talk about how to get kids interacting with kids in other places. So what we would intend to do with those conference rooms and this larger room would be to put in interactive teleporting screens, not teleporting, that's the Star Trek theme, but you know, the idea that I can get on a TV and talk to somebody. And we've been working for a couple of years now about the technology and what's best, but also projects. Imagine kids in our district working on projects with kids from other districts in the state, across the country, and ultimately forming sister partnerships in other countries. We have an amazing multicultural, multi-ethnic community. Wouldn't it be nice to have people communicating? So those rooms not only could be places where kids can meet and work, but also to be very technical in building operations for kids to do some amazing projects above and beyond the community. The Aquatic Center, 2 important notes there. It has to come with a pool house, and we will build it with solar heating to control the costs of heating the pool, which are the largest portion of maintaining an aquatic center. And these are some, this is the Career Technical Ed building. Again, different looks, but originally it was designed more with a shop concept. That was a few years ago. I think Mr. Faubert really did an excellent job really addressing what could go in that building in terms of giving kids opportunities to learn. And ultimately, that's how it breaks down. So you have a classroom here, one there, and one there. So there's 5 classroom spaces to do amazing things. And when we have the conversations, we're pooling information for kids, we'll have outreach to the community. We have to build these buildings and put in things that can change over time. So some of these rooms will have something that goes in and is built in and it's going to stay. And some of these rooms will be flexible so that as time passes, technology evolves, interests change, the community evolves, we could also make these rooms adaptable. So that's kind of the fun and creative part of developing our career technical ed program, is not only are we developing partnerships with Delta College, but we're also rolling back into our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade elective programs, CTE opportunities, and moving backwards all the way to K-5 with Project Lead the Way in the big plans. These are some ancillary projects. Snack bar is important at the football stadium. It's kind of this missing link as you walk in, but it's important with restrooms as well. And the field houses look very similar in structure. So that's really phase 3 of the high school and the outside look of the program. Peter Hanson Elementary School. Again, I challenge the community. I know everybody's very busy. Go out and drive around Peter Hanson neighborhood or Hanson Village. It is unbelievable the amount of houses they're building. But this is the site map. You can actually drive all the way around to right about here where that entranceway would be. They have a barricade, but it's all set up already. Other than there's a lot of mustard growing in the field right now. But this is a really important piece of data, is when you build a new school. In our community, it's growing exponentially, and it appears that the housing market is growing faster and faster. We are looking at 2 different tables. The one on the left here, which I believe is blue in the actual presentation that's on the computers, this is where we sit now with our current staffing. We currently have in our district approximately room for about 293 more students spread out throughout the 5 elementary schools. There are spaces available that we use and let people use for different things, so there's a little gap for room. But when you look at a 15-month build of a school and all the things that go into doing that, in our current state, we would exceed our capacity sometime in mid-year if, and I want to say this, if we continue to grow at approximately 15 K-8 students a month. So that's the pressure slide. This is the less pressure slide, which is more of an optimal growth, where the 293 students in the first one grows up to about 451 students. And that would be maximizing class sizes. Again, students who move into the community would be distributed amongst the elementary schools, and we would be able to put more kids out into the existing schools. But again, on a 15-month build schedule, the construction start date would just be a year from this summer, this spring. So there is a very real pressure about decisions that need to be made about building Hanson Elementary School. And I know that the 95 students that we currently have living in Hanson Village, I know that the number one question being said is, when are you building the school? So we are tracking this, but it's very important information for the community and the board to know. These are some interesting renderings that we just put up. This is what kind of this is the design model done in computer graphic. I think if they did it, it would be that balsa wood model. Here's another look at the structures. This is a look at the admin building and the multi-use room and how they would be broken down. Again, all of these designs have been DSA approved, which is the Department of School Architecture. So this is all approved and ready to go. And this is what it looked like this morning when I drove out there to give a picture. And I was trying to capture the growth and at the same time, while standing on a large pile of rocks, take a good picture. So to the right is the site where the school would be, and in the foreground of the picture to the left is essentially what that park would be next to it. So that's an update on Hanson Village and the numbers of students we're growing in the district and where it would look like. And then we have, this is a picture of the Cuesta Preschool. We have 2 additional preschools promised to the community. The funds have to come in, obviously, to build the buildings, but there's a plan to be one at Altamont, and there's planned to be one at Hanson. It's a 2-classroom setup with a restroom facility in the middle, so classroom 1, classroom 2, and restrooms. And ultimately, we've also been contacted by the developers, and they've asked us to come up with a naming committee for the school that would be built in Neighborhood D. And my understanding is that's a long out. They need it for naming purposes. But also, what I'm told is sometime this spring they're going to begin developing the beginnings of the infrastructure for Neighborhood D. For people in the community that aren't aware, that's to the southeast side of the high school. So that's a quick update on our buildings, and but I wanted the board and the community to see kind of where we're at with schools and our buildings.
So I would like to see that permission slip